And we continue at 2:07 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wags at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, the strikes roll on for the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, which means it's time to bring in the big guns. Of course, it's one thing to have impassioned speeches from SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly.
But somebody must have realized, wait a second, we have some of the best speakers in the entire planet on our side. So at a big rally in Times Square, SAG-AFTRA got none other than Heisenberg himself, Mr. Bryan Cranston, to scream at Bob Iger.
We've got a message for Mr. Iger. I know, sir, that you look through things through a different lens. We don't expect you to understand who we are, but we ask you to hear us.
And yes, that's sirens in Times Square.
But we ask you to hear us, and beyond that, to listen to us when we tell you we will not be having our jobs taken away and giving to robots. We will not have you take away our right to work and earn a decent living. And lastly, and most importantly, we will not allow you to take away our dignity.
That actually doesn't surprise me, because when it comes to the studios, Bryan Cranston has the hot hate of 1,000 suns.
Oh, really?
I hope I'm not speaking out of school with this. But one night I had drinks with him, and in addition to the acting, one of the things that he used to do on the side was he owned a movie theater. Happened to be in Palm Desert, and it was at the mall. And it was one of these movie theaters that people in town went to. It's the mall movie theater. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the other movie theater companies or the studios not liking him for one reason or another, but they essentially blackballed him and his theater and wouldn't allow his theater to play any of the big movies. They wanted him to go out of business, and they did so by not giving him any movies that anyone had any interest in seeing. So as a result, he essentially had to run an art house theater because those were the only movies he could get his hands on. And eventually it went belly up because there's only a certain number of people who wants to watch a 2-hour documentary on biting your fingernails. And let me tell you, that man you just heard in the clip was the same man I had drinks with.
Disney, you listening? This man is the danger. He is the one who knocks.
Anyway, good for Bryan Cranston. Who wants to be replaced by a robot? Even RoboCop doesn't want that. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. I want to go back to the clip that we just played you from L.A. Mayor Mother Goose about the number of people who have died on our MTA buses, trains, and subways. Because this number is absolutely eye-popping. It's been hidden. It's been hidden from you purposely. And if this number was put in the public domain in a place where people could see it, people would be demanding change on these trains and buses and subways. But if they keep it from you, then no one knows it because no one rides the trains because they inherently know they're dangerous.
And we must address the increase in human suffering that we have seen on our public transit system, like many other cities are also facing. Homelessness, as you know, is my top priority, and this is an issue of life and death. Almost 50 people have died on the metro system just this year.
50 people have died. That has to be some kind of record.
Oh, it is, because last year was the highest number ever, and it was 22.
Okay, so there you have it. We've reached the highest number ever by more than double, and we're only halfway through the year. We haven't even gotten to the stress of the holidays yet.
Almost 50 people have died on the metro system just this year.
And she's been a board member for those 7 months.
Do you have any idea how embarrassing that number is?
This is after, by the way, that number went up, even though Karen Bass back in February said, hey, can we get all the ambassadors to carry Narcan?
And then you've got your public health director out passing out drug paraphernalia to the people who are overdosing and dying.
No, thank you.
In a perverse sort of way, this falls under the umbrella of the fake doctor.
Yeah.
In theory, she's the one responsible for making sure this doesn't happen.
The county spends a lot of money on budgets for the LA County Department of Public Health that's supposed to go towards drug treatment and prevention. And Barbara Ferrer gives that money to nonprofits that pass out meth pipes.
No, thank you.
This would be like the mayor of Chicago passing out bullets. I will say this. I know I've been critical of the fake doctor since I've been aware of her performance. However, she's just as competent when it comes to the drug problem as she was with COVID.
The evidence is like crystal clear on that.
So what is Karen Bass going to do in the wake of the number approaching 50 people who have died of drug overdoses on the trains?
Almost 50 people have died on the metro system just this year.
Double down on everything we're doing now.
So we are increasing our homeless outreach teams by 50%. This year we will have 24 teams, dedicated metro teams, working in partnership with community-based organizations to develop homeless navigation hubs and conducting the sustained outreach needed to move people off the stations, trains, and buses and into stable housing.
Because we can't use handcuffs for people smoking crack on a train.
What's the magic number? How many people have to die on the trains before we try Plan B?
And we're going to take full advantage of the surplus and underutilized land to jumpstart Metro's joint development program, to increase Metro's production of housing units tenfold.
Here we go. 50 people have died of ODs on the trains. We need more housing.
I think some of those people get their mail delivered to them on the trains because they spend so much time there.
To increase Metro's production of housing units tenfold so that we reach the 10,000 units of housing by 2031 that Supervisor Hahn described, half of which will be income restricted.
More housing. More outreach.
These people just don't learn. They really don't. How many times can you do the same thing and it not work before you decide to take a different course?
Almost 50 people have died on the metro system just this year.
Just wait till next year. Just wait till the World Cup. But, John,
my goodness,
when you're chair of Metro, safety is the name of the game. And Karen Bass is here to tell you that she is taking these safety issues seriously.
At the same time, we must make sure riders and Metro employees alike both feel safe and actually are safe on our system.
That's right. We're not even just talking about the appearance of safety. We're talking about real safety. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
You know what's coming.
At the same time, we must make sure riders and Metro employees alike both feel safe and actually are safe on our system. So to keep everyone safe, we have deployed the hundreds of ambassadors who serve as eyes and ears. And I just want to acknowledge you once again for your work. Thank you so much.
Well, London Breed, the mayor of San Francisco, already gave us an update on how that's working out for the ambassadors.
That's right, because San Francisco usually decides to run these programs way before we do. They fail, but we don't listen, and we just go ahead and repeat history. But you want to know what happened to the safety ambassadors up in San Francisco?
People have been stabbed in Urban Alchemy. They've been shot. They've been attacked. And they still show up every single day as an alternative to policing for this community.
Oh, there's a little scandal with them, by the way, Johnny, because one of the Urban Alchemy safety ambassadors was caught brandishing a knife.
Well, if that was my job, I'd probably bring a knife too. Those ambassadors are in more danger than our ambassador to Libya.
So to keep everyone safe, we have deployed the hundreds of ambassadors who serve as eyes and ears, and I just want to acknowledge you once again for your work. Thank you so much.
They just keep going with this. The safety ambassadors are the way that we're going to become safe. Just because they have safety in the name doesn't mean they actually do anything.
This is really fascinating to me, that of all of the things that all of these people latch onto as the savior for our problems, it's the one thing that's universally recognized as being completely useless.
It's really incredible. Now, I have to play this for you. Last week, KTLA did a ride-along with all the different people that work in Metro for safety, so the police officers, the safety officers, and they even talked to a safety ambassador. And while they were talking to the safety ambassador, they were approached by a crazy man. I want to play you what this exchange was because it'll tell you everything you need to know about the ambassador program.
Another part of the Metro's multi-layer approach to safety is their ambassador program. It started at Westlake MacArthur, but has since expanded to over 300 ambassadors on the entire transit system. Shadea Stewart is one of them.
Generally, we have a lot of people out here, like they may exhibit signs of aggression. They're throwing things around. They're verbally agitated. They're speaking to themselves. They're moving erratically.
During our interview, a man you see there on your screen pushing a cart and speaking to himself approaches the two of us. Security officers then escort him away. How often are you monitoring someone like that versus actually helping the passenger?
Thankfully, we're mostly helping the passengers. So I can honestly say that usually these situations are just visually uncomfortable, but all in all, exactly. So the safety issue is not really an issue.
The safety ambassadors are what produced our Man on the Street in West Hollywood.
Oh, yes, my buddy.
Ooh, this doesn't look too good.
But, John, listen to this explanation again of what this woman's job is as one of the safety ambassadors, because I don't think she knows.
How often are you monitoring someone like that versus actually helping the passenger?
Thankfully, we're mostly helping the passengers. So I can honestly say that usually these situations are just visually uncomfortable, but all in all, exactly. So the safety issue is not really an issue.
What?
The safety issue is not really an issue?
It's just visually uncomfortable.
How about the people that get stabbed? That's a different sense.
Including the bus drivers.
So to keep everyone safe, we have deployed the hundreds of ambassadors who serve as eyes and ears, and I just want to acknowledge you once again for your work. Thank you so much.
Let's not forget that even the ambassadors feel that it is so unsafe down there that they want to unionize because they think they need hazard pay.
These people are beyond hopeless.
Now, after Karen Bass gives the big shout out to the ambassadors, she admits that when you poll riders, they want police.
And we all know that too many of the safety issues that we are having are really mental health or substance abuse related, which is why our safety strategy must address those underlying issues. We know that drug addiction fuels so much of the discord and crime on our system, and we are making sure that we are both conducting enforcement and getting people the services and treatment that they need, depending on what is best for that individual. But we also must listen more to riders. In response to feedback, we are deploying more officers across the B and D subway lines, that's the red and purple lines, and the bus routes with the most assaults to prevent crime and improve response times.
So why aren't you sending the ambassadors there if they keep everyone safe?
No. What you need is you need to fill those trains up with cops that essentially act as nightclub bouncers. And the minute you decide you're going to go shoot up on a train, they take you and throw you out the window face first.
But we don't want to do that. No, what we want to do is Metro would like to explore canceling the contracts that we have with LAPD, Long Beach PD, and the LA County Sheriff's Department and creating their own Metro Police Force.
But we must push even further. And we must also tailor our public safety strategy to this moment, to the metro system, and to the community that it serves. That is why previous chair, another accomplishment of Chair Najarian, led a motion to explore replacing the current status quo of contracting with outside law enforcement agencies, in fact, there are 3 outside agencies, to an in-house metro community safety department. We have an opportunity to create a department that from its inception is integrated with a holistic approach, one that ensures that we respond urgently to crime, but that we prevent crime and deliver the necessary outreach and services.
Okay.
It's a lot to take in there.
This is not that complicated. You have a crime problem on the subway, on the train. You put more police on the train, on the subway. You make sure everyone knows they're there. They have a physical presence, and people will behave. The people who will not behave will be thrown off the trains, and then they'll figure out real fast that the trains isn't a good place to go do your drugs. Because they were at odds with the LA County Sheriff's Department on a number of subjects, primarily the desire of the Board of Supervisors to defund them, they were of the belief that that department was evil. So fine, you don't want to do business with the Sheriff's Department, you'll create your own agency. And you'll take essentially the same people and call it something else, and then you've reinvented the wheel. But whatever it is, whether it's the Sheriff's Department, whether it's a new agency, whether it's Long Beach PD, what you need is you need trained, armed police officers who are physically there to make sure it's safe. The safety ambassadors don't do anything. The social workers don't do anything. They're in charge now, and you've ruined it. You want sanity back on those trains, you better bring the cops in, and you better back them up.
Well, and here's the other insane part about this idea. Right now, every single police agency up and down the state, throughout the country, is having a labor problem, is having a hiring problem. It's very difficult to fill the ranks of the police officers, whether it's LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, or even the little contract cities. And Karen Bass and the Metro Board would like to create a competing agency that, well, they're going to have to hire people from the local area. They're going to have to hire trained people because they can't train them on the spot. So the only way they're going to get Metro police officers is by poaching LAPD and the Sheriff's Department, which will lower their ranks even more.
That's right. And the way you get paid at these departments is by seniority. It's like being a teacher or an airline pilot. The longer you're there, the more you get paid. The only people who ever leave those jobs for another department or another company are people who are problem children. They're passed over for appointments. They're passed over for promotions. They, for whatever reason, can't get along with the people around them. What you're going to do is you're going to attract all of the misfits. And that means you're going to run into a lot of problems with many of them. Just go with the departments that you already have, who have already trained their people, who are people who are making their career at that department and seem to exist in good standing in that department, and use them. But no, we can't do that because we're Los Angeles and we can't make anything work.
Oh, you're so optimistic.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you are monitoring the mailbag.
Steve writes in with a good old-fashioned SAT-level analogy. Safety ambassadors are to those United Nations blue helmet-wearing surrenderers as Katie Porter is to Jerry Nadler. And he misspelled Porter. There's no K in there.
That seems to be common. Anyway, if at 3:01 you want to keep listening to Randy and I, Randy, that's easy to do.
That's right. Go to KBC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. That way you can download all of the episodes and you can listen to them whenever you want all day. Want to listen to these 3 hours 6 times a day? You can do that. I don't know why you would, but you could. So why not? Download them and share them with your friends. We like that.
We're going through the sound of the MTA board meeting where Karen Bass dropped a bomb on us saying that almost 50 people have died on our MTA buses and trains so far this year, a new record.
Almost 50 people have died on the metro system just this year.
Maybe if we play that enough times, it'll get picked up by somebody. Because this is the thing. I listened to this morning while I'm driving in as I put this on YouTube, and I hear her say that, and I haven't heard anybody or seen anybody do a story on it.
In theory, it's huge news, but I guess if a person dies on the subway, but no one rides the subway and they're around to see it, does that death actually happen?
Oh, there's a scruple for you. Now, Karen Bass also admits not only do we need Metro to be safer for people to ride it, but we also need it to be faster.
Most importantly, the metro system must work for people so that it has to go where people need to go and where they want to go. It must be reliable, it must be convenient, and it must be fast. And that starts with how long the wait is between the next train or bus. So starting in September, the B and D lines, the red and purple line subway.
Can they stop with the stupid naming convention? Every single time for the last 3 years since they changed the names of the red and blue and purple to the letter system, they have to constantly remind you which one they're talking about because nobody uses the freaking letters.
They do that with stadiums, too, and arenas. Anytime some new company gets new naming rights, they change the name. I remember after being to many hockey games at the Arrowhead Pond of Anaheim, suddenly KABC had an event at the Honda Center. And I looked at my paper that they gave to me, and I said, Honda Center in Anaheim? Where the hell is the Honda Center? I've never been there before. Oh, it's the Arrowhead Pond. And then you got Staples Center downtown. Everyone knows that arena is Staples Center. Now it's Crypto.com Arena.
Till they go bankrupt.
Yes, and then it'll be something else. And the result is no one knows where the hell they're supposed to go.
I think it was the Heat that were playing at FTX Arena, and we all know what happened to FTX.
That's right.
The B and D lines, the red and purple line subways, will run every 10 minutes. By the end of the year, our light rail lines will run every 8 minutes during peak hours and 10 minutes off-peak. Our recently completed bus lanes on Venice Boulevard and the under-construction bus lanes on La Brea are just 2 examples of how we are accelerating our bus service for riders.
She missed a word in that. It's not bus lane, it's bus-only lane. And she is going to speed up bus travel in Los Angeles by taking away a car lane on very busy streets like Venice, which they've already done, and La Brea, which is pretty much one of the only ways to get through Hollywood.
So it will be faster for the empty buses, but it will be slower for everyone else in their cars.
And that's how they're going to get you to ride the Metro, because you're not going to ride it because it's convenient, and you're not going to ride it because it's safe, but you're going to ride it because they're going to make your life a living hell if you choose to still drive your car.
That's the LA way.
But let's go back. It's time for the big finisher as Karen Bass talks about this world-class system, which means that she's obviously never been to Germany.
The health of our air, the length of our commutes, the gridlock we face, our access to affordable housing and good jobs, it all depends on how we build out the system, how we operate the system.
I don't really see how housing has anything to do with any of that.
Nope.
How we keep the system safe, and how we return its spaces to its actual intended uses for transportation. We are building up one of the world's great metros. And
again, have you seen any other public transit system around the world?
They're all great. Barcelona, Japan, Germany, you come here, and it looks like a system that got bombed.
We are building up one of the world's great metros. And if we do it right, if we run it right, the people will come and they will enjoy world-class service befitting of our world-class region. Thank you.
Okay, let me tell you something about world-class service. Do you remember back in the day, Randy, when parking was free at the casinos on the Strip in Las Vegas?
Now that's world-class service.
Okay. That was the way it was for a long time, because the theory was you wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to get there, because if they got there, they'd lose all their money in the casino. It's part of the reason that flights to Las Vegas were subsidized, and why they comped you things like rooms and show tickets and meals if you would gamble in their casino. There was a method to their madness. But then the mob left and the corporations took over, and the corporations believed that every aspect of that casino should have a line item, should have a budget, should have a spreadsheet. And the coffee shop had to turn a profit, and the showroom had to turn a profit. No more lost leaders to bring people in to gamble in the gambling hall. Everything had to make money because that's the corporate way. And at a certain point, they looked at the parking structure the same way. Why are we giving parking away when we can charge for it? And the minute they started charging for parking, they started calling it world-class parking. And the minute they started charging for parking, let me tell you what happened. The escalators just stopped working. Why? I don't know. You'd figure if they had more money to play with, they could make sure the escalators would be operational. I defy you to go to Mandalay Bay and use their parking structure and find all of the escalators ever working at the same time. It's not possible. It hasn't happened. It won't happen. The machines that they have to use to pay for your parking when you leave never work, which means there's a long line of cars exiting the structure when you're trying to get out, especially after a fight, after a concert, after people are finished watching the football game in the sports book, because everybody tends to leave at the same time. That means it's like leaving the Grove every time you leave Mandalay Bay or any of the Vegas hotels on the Strip. The minute they started calling it world class, it went to hell. So let me tell you, the one thing I agree with Mayor Karen Bass on the MTA on is that it is world class. Same definition as Las Vegas, same product.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, thank you. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
And the mailbag has been exploding today. We thank you all so much for responding. We thank you so much for writing in. Caesar writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Hey, Randy, pretty soon the ghost hunting shows are going to have to do a Halloween special to see if almost 50 people are currently haunting the Metro cars.